I'ma go live, I'ma go live, I'ma go live, I'ma go. Hi! Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are back live for another Friday night, a SmackDown evening, as we dive into the wonderful world of the craziness, the pure, unadulterated carnage that is pro wrestling. And what a time to be a fan of pro wrestling. One company, if you listen to the dirt sheets, has crumbled to dust before our very eyes, because that's what the vibe says. More on that shortly. While one company is suddenly not only on top, but on top to such a level that she ain't ever climbing back on top again. And I just find that so reassuring and also completely wrong in almost every goddamn way. So, plenty of details to jump into, plenty of headlines to dive onto. We have 38 people here before we even started, 24 likes. Give us a thumbs up, let's get to 30. Our headlines today will be news of a offer made for a WWE return for Mercedes Money, formerly known as Sasha Banks. Warner Brothers Discovery in for WWE programming, particularly WWE Raw. There's also a report stating it's going to change days. Monday Night Raw on a Wednesday is a confusing prospect, but apparently one that actually could happen. AEW at risk of dropping off the face of the earth. I never thought I'd have to really actually seriously mention this one, pardon me, but here we are on it. CM Punk, his time in NXT, which, if you'll remember, I reported was going to happen shortly, and here we are with it actively happening. Why was he there, and why was he accused of having an affair? More on that. MJF to WWE. Talked about it before, we'll talk about it again because Cody Rhodes has added a bit more context. Team Santos Escobar is growing, with news that you may have seen on the community page about two potential call-ups tonight from NXT, people who've already dropped down. Also, we'll talk about the community page and how I'm using it at the moment, see if you guys are interested. Jack Perry is the devil, apparently. More on that shortly. Also, this is definitely the SmackDown where AJ Styles returns. And Lacey Evans, or Macy as she is now being referred to as, didn't love wrestling, which, to be fair, is true of a hell of a lot of people, so let's not hold it against her too hard. We'll have more details on that. We will, of course, catch up at least a little bit with the chat before we dive in so that the room can grow and so that people can come in. We usually get to our first piece around 5 past, 10 past, but we currently have 30 likes, 72 viewers, a great number for 3 minutes in. Let's get up to 36 likes. 36 likes is our record by 5 past. 2 minutes, 6 likes. Can you do it? I think you might just be able to. So, few people have said hi that I haven't already said hi to. Martin says greetings. Sorry for my absence. Tonight's spoiler warning looks stacked. It absolutely is. Plenty of detail here. What I will say, I'm always very flattered that people apologise for not being here. It's okay, guys. I know people are in and out, and you'll come in when it's interesting to you. Sai says, evening all, welcome Sai. Yes Joey, we do have that news. Riyadh says, hey Tom, hope you and the family are doing good, doing very good. Thank you, Christmas is indeed coming. Raymond says, hello Tom, happy Friday, hope you and your family are well. Indeed they are, welcome. Sean says, hi Tom. Spiderboss says, hello Tom, wonder what WWE can offer, more on that. Also says, what do I think about the Becky versus Nia feud? Long overdue, glad to see it finally happening. Royal Rumble I've already talked about, check the actual channel, Spiderboss. And yes, I was indeed making a Mustafa Ali reference. Ed says Tom Colohue is back. Hopefully he won't report on vibes tonight. 100%, 100% I'm reporting on vibes tonight. Because as a wrestling journalist, isn't that what we do? We are 1 like away from 36. 1 minute left to do it. Jamie says hi. Welcome, Jamie. James Shelley says you definitely know how to write a headline. It's that nice mix between actual outright disgusting clickbait and this is actually legitimately what I'm going to be discussing. Hello Leon, how you doing? Hello Dan as well. Daniela says, good evening Tom, Premier League football referees are annoying me. I'm sorry to hear that. In a wrestling show. Jonathan says Kenny Omega is out indefinitely. He just announced on his Twitter handle. Thank you Jonathan for sourcing and sharing. Mr. Stumble says, is it true CM Punk's friend Danny Miller and Anthony Nardelli? I have no idea who those people are. Leon says PWInsider reported for the 40th time AJ Styles is set to return on SmackDown tonight. More on that shortly. Leeds Delivers says, I hope you all are okay. I will be lurking for a while. Thank you kindly, and I hope you're good, mate. Mustafa says, hey Tom, looking great as ever. Thank you kindly. I do need a shave, but I'll take it. And Aled also shares the information on Kenny. Joey, we will be talking about that later. Riyadh says, Raw on Monday just sounds wrong. Really hope the day doesn't change. Raw's already on Monday. I'm guessing that was a typo. Mr. Stumble says, hi Tom, do you think Tony Khan will show up as the GM of Raw hugging Vince? No. LF says, evening Tom, super excited for Roman's return on SmackDown tonight. It's gonna be a big one tonight, I tell you that. And tell you what else is a big one, this stream right here, because at 5 past, as we go into 6 minutes past, we broke a record. We shattered it. We reached 40 likes because of all of you. You guys are how this channel grows, and you guys are why this channel grows. Thank you. First piece of news is Mercedes Money, formerly known as Sasha Banks, has a return offer from the WWE, and it is believed to be quite incredibly lucrative. So, Mercedes Money, formerly known as Sasha Banks, is currently a free agent, and I want to know first and foremost from you, do you want to see her WWE, AEW, New Japan, anywhere? You tell me where you want to see Mercedes sign a new contract to wrestle, or in fact if you don't. So the deal is incredibly lucrative. Triple H is apparently turning up the heat and going a little bit hell for leather in order to get this one over the line. He's been in constant contact with Mercedes, but she has given him reason to believe that she can be drawn away from what seemed a sure thing when it comes to the world of AEW. Everything was ready for her to sign, but she didn't sign it. Details that I can share now include limited dates, a high monetary value, and a certain amount of guaranteed push. So the WWE, particularly Triple H, has already pitched a push to her. Now there's a number of different options available. They all include championships, they all include top level, and they potentially include an actual main event of WrestleMania. Now the wording on this may mean that they can say they've already ticked that box, but right now there is an actual main event of WrestleMania on the card. I need to catch up with the chat. I'll get right back to this. Bailey says 2024 looks like a critical year for AEW. LF said let's get the likes up. Thank you kindly. Thank you, Pete. Mr. Stumble says, do you watch Mrs. Brown's Boys? Nope. Spider-Boss says it seems Tony Khan will need more than a special announcement. Christian says, have you seen Taylor Rotunda's latest videos? Do you think he's teasing something? I have not. I'll have to get back to you, Christian. Brad says, let's go with likes, people. Thank you kindly. Juan says, hey Tom, according to Sean Ross Sapp, he reports AEW no longer has plans to bring in Mercedes Money. Agree? I already reported this one. Already reported this one a while back. Dan says, Jack Perry as the devil is not a good prospect. I fear he'll get go-away heat. Chris Leclerc says, I saw a picture on Bailey's Twitter where she was hugging a young Billy Starks. Yes, she was. And a lot of people completely misinterpreted this one. Like, completely misinterpreted it. Joey says, SRS reported Punk was analysing matches and giving talent feedback during NXT. Do you see him make it? I've got that as a news item. I will get to it. Lauren says, sorry to show up so late. Did you touch on Warner Brothers Discovery? Not as of yet. That is our third piece of news. Hello, McCade. How are you? Jordan says, good evening, Mr. Colohue. Good evening, Jordan. Rosal says, hey, Tom, any update on Charlotte? Not at this point in time. I will touch on that a little bit later. Sean says, Wrestling Observer said the Christmas episode of Raw will be the best of show since no show is being taped, and that is accurate. James, I will be getting to Charlotte and, of course, when it comes to Bianca. Mustafa says, we apologise because we support you and we love this community, and you, we don't like to miss out. I appreciate that. That's very flattering, and I appreciate you. Don't worry, Daniela, I can always fly by it, and I appreciate you giving me content. That's how this show lives. Joey says, the PWInsider report is reminding me of the Carlito report. PWInsider seemed to celebrate the fact that Carlito eventually debuted, but there is no guarantee that he signed when they thought he signed, which is always quite interesting. Spider-Boss says, I'm convinced SRS watches Spoiler Warning. He always comes up with news we already saw. On Spoiler Warning, 23 says, will Santa make an appearance on Raw soon? Unlikely, as it's a taped best of. Spider-Boss, more on that shortly. Thank you, LF, saying well done on the record. We are 4 likes away from a record of 50 at 10 past. 1 minute, 4 likes, 91 people. You can do that. James Shelley says money continues to be a draw, clearly. Yes, Joey, he did indeed say that. Dylan says, hi, Tom. How you doing today? Doing well, thank you. McKay says, I'm praying Sasha returns from WWE. So, let's get back to it. Many of the options available for Mercedes Money hinge on her getting the name Mercedes Money. The Mercedes brand is a sticking point at this point in time, and Triple H and Nick Khan are trying to essentially give her an option which involves them going back to the name Sasha Banks. The name Sasha Banks is already a marketed option and a trademark to the WWE, meaning they would earn more from her and thus it would make it worth the money that they're investing. But most importantly, thank you everyone, that's 50 likes within 10 minutes of the show starting. A new record, once again, you guys are smashing it. Thank you so kindly. We're nearly at 100 viewers at 93. Keep them likes coming. One of the options available involves a Royal Rumble return to assist Bayley, but Sasha Banks would not be winning the Royal Rumble. In fact, it seems likely at this point in time that while Mercedes would have a big match at WrestleMania, it would not be interrupting current plans, and current plans do have Bayley taking on Io Sky. So there are options being offered, but it does not mean the very top level immediately. There is also still an offer on the table from AEW, including a number of different creative options as well, and an option on the table from TNA. What I'm told is that Sasha Banks would be working with Bayley, as that has been requested by Sasha Banks herself. Bayley says Mercedes Venado will be known as Sasha Banks if she joins WWE. Didn't say that. Did say it was an option, that's what they want. 23 Fresh says, any MJF news? There will be, yes. Ashley wants Sasha in WWE. Will says, hey Tom, have you heard anything about Charlotte's knee? More on that shortly. Brad says WWE. Aled wants Mercedes in WWE. Welcome Carmelina, how you doing? 23 Fresh says ECW, WWE. She would do well. Bailey says WWE but a limited date contract, which is on the table. It's McCade, says WWE. Raymond says Mercedes/Sasha belongs in WWE. Carmelina agrees, WWE. Lawrence says, I'd love to see Money back in New Japan. That is also a sticking point to the contract negotiations. Mercedes Money believes that she has unfinished business in Japan, and WWE at this point are not willing to allow her to finish that business. Jan says, I think Mercedes will head back to the WWE. Christian says it only makes sense she goes back to WWE so she can probably join Damage Control. To my knowledge, that is not on the table. Spider-Boss says, I want to see Mercedes Money in AEW. Mercedes and AEW will be the top girl in WWE. They won't push her as they push Becky and Rhea. They push plenty of different people, I'll say that. However, when it comes to AEW, they definitely would push her as a top person. In WWE, they could push her as a lower card person and she'd still get the Mercedes brand in front of more eyes. And that's something she's considering. Also, to be fair, they are promising her big pushes. Eric says, tonight on SmackDown revealed by WWE, thank you, Michin and Zelina Vega versus the Kabuki Warriors. Well, that's out of nowhere and definitely suggests that as we talk about PWInsider later, there might be a reason for it. It's McCade says, Sasha wins the Royal Rumble pitch. Chris says, I want Mercedes Money back in WWE. So does Bayley. Bayley absolutely does. That's true. Robin Dave says, Ringside News has stated WWE's considered switching up Randy Orton's theme song. They haven't. Sean says, did you see the picture of MJF at John Cena's movie premiere? Yes. It was a wrestling movie, so AEW were represented. James Shelley says she has so many options in WWE, finishing the story with Charlotte, the Kabuki Warriors, Damage Control story, Jade Cargill. The divisions are stacked for her, and they are. Let's also not forget, I'm on a very good run of form for Mercedes Money. I like to provide a little bit of evidence as to my credentials here. I'm the guy who reported that Sasha Banks was due to face Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania when Ronda Rousey returned. I've heard a lot about that in the last few weeks, but for about a year, I was the only one reporting it. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you doing? Well, thank you Marcel, welcome to the show. Sean says, I thought the girl in Bayley's photo was Izzy. It was not. Michael says, hi Tom, so my hopes of Mercedes in AEW are gone, I guess. Not entirely. As I say, that is an offer on the table. It does have the option of returning to New Japan. She does feel she has unfinished business, according to different sources on this one. And it also guarantees use of the Mercedes brand, though she is trying to convince the WWE to adopt it. Dylan says, Tom, do you think Punk will win the Rumble or not? My predictions are already live in PLE Wednesdays. By all means, check out that playlist. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Aled says, next week's SmackDown is taped tonight. Could we get Roman 2 weeks in a row? I'll be shocked. Will you? John says, happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you. Any news on Julia? Nope. I have never had any news on Julia. I only have the information that I have. I'm not going to be someone who tries to hint and say, oh, I know this, I know this. I know everything, but I can't tell you. I know nothing about Julia. Mr. Stumble says, any New Year's resolutions, Tom? I don't know. It might be sort of rough to say this, but I've gained a lot of weight this year, and I'd like to get rid of that. That's my resolution. Fitter. Which is weird because, I used to laugh at people who did that, but here we are. Perry says, any 2K24 news? Not yet. However, I will say that if it's not CM Punk on the cover, I don't know what they're doing with themselves. Joey says, do you know if Triple H has started contacting people for Royal Rumble appearances? He started months ago. Michael says, SE Scoops reported on Monday there were no contract talks between WWE and Mercedes. I dispute that. Also, I want to say Dave Meltzer is reporting that it's all about the money. It's about the money. Oh, that's a good line. Martin, welcome, says, sorry, Tom, not been able to watch live for some time. Hope you're good. Doing very well, thank you. No need to apologise. Nice to see you, mate. Steve, I do not have details of the financial offer. Jonathan says, sounds like Banks versus Jade. Jade is likely to win her opening match. Not an impossibility. Joey says, House of Wrestling is reporting the Raw TV talks have been kept quiet. Do you think they have something big planned? They want to keep TV talks quiet because they don't want insider trading happening. House of Wrestling is basically reporting, I don't know anything because they're intentionally keeping it quiet. See, I know something. They're reporting they know something and what they know is nothing. That's what they're actually reporting. Very confusing concept. Book Spaceman says, if Sasha Banks comes back, will she be in the Royal Rumble? Already discussed that. Pop back to 5 past. The news starts reported there. Dan says, I think it's time for AEW to smash the emergency glass and bring back one of its big guns, Marco Stunt. Interesting. CM says, would her return happen at the Royal Rumble? Possibly. Again, already covered that. Pop back to 5 past. All of the news you would need is there. Alex says, I'd rather see Banks return at Mania to help Bayley win the title. Also a possibility, though not one that I'm aware of being offered. Spider-Boss says, if I'm Tony Khan, I would offer Mercedes money in AEW women's title match on her AEW debut. Who says he hasn't? Eric says, Mercedes money to WWE. Michael says, I think Triple H is full of, and she wouldn't main event Mania. As I say, the wording of it that I've been told about, and admittedly, this is like through multiple sources, so it's taken a few steps, suggests that she might already have done the main event that they're referring to. Book says if they pay big bucks for her, I can't imagine them not pushing her to the moon, and Triple H adores Sasha Banks. To be fair, Vince McMahon adored her even more. One says, could AEW losing their TV deal also be a turn-off for Mercedes money? More on that later. Alice says, Fightful has said Randy could have a new theme song as early as tonight. I'd be interested in that. I don't want it. It's Randy Orton. It's iconic. Chris says they announced Randy Orton versus Jimmy Uso tonight on SmackDown. Spider-Boss says, I remember how many times WWE changed plans for Mercedes money Sasha Banks and she didn't get what she wanted. Book says, I don't see why she would go to AEW. They don't value their women's division the same way that WWE treats their women's division. Eric says, I want her wherever she's happy, which I think is a very good way of saying it. Noob says, hello Tom, how you doing? Doing very well, thank you. And Wiggly says, what up? Robin Dave says, with Bayley getting a face turn soon, she deserves it. Her time as a heel was a hit and miss. It's McCade says she should change, keep the name to Sasha Banks, have money as her middle name, as like a nickname. Maybe that would completely defeat the purpose. She doesn't want the money brand, it's the Mercedes brand she wants to build. Solvik says, hello Tom, I hope everything is good. Does WWE still have an interest on female talents like Jordan Grace? I'm not aware that WWE have had an interest in female talents like Jordan Grace. I certainly haven't reported it. Michael says, Ebu of Wrestling Purist reported AEW isn't high on Julia. Once again, I know absolutely nothing as regards Julia. Jared says, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins is going to be a good rivalry. I would state that it already has been so far. And Wiggly says, I already started my weight loss and fitness regime into day 2. Perry says, since we have 2 men already declared for the Rumble, any news of who the first women to announce will be? I wouldn't be surprised if it was Becky Lynch. I'm tempted, by the way, to do a PLE Wednesday where I book the entirety of the Royal Rumble. I'll give you some hints. We start off by someone whose time is now, but he don't want none. Bailey says, will there be a watch party this evening? Yes, there will. Tommy says, Jade versus Rhea would be amazing. Michael says, House of Wrestling said nothing. They reported on Vibes, which we will be discussing soon. Mr. Stumble says, do you think Dave Meltzer can run a Target? I don't know what that means. Q43 says, Kenny Omega tweeted he's out indefinitely. He did indeed. Okay. Let's get to our next piece of news. Warner Brothers is reportedly, per Dave Meltzer, in for WWE. They're looking for WWE Raw, potentially changing the actual night on which it runs. The question for you with this piece of news is, if WWE Raw is not on a Monday, what day do you think it should be? Okay? If WWE Raw is no longer Monday Night Raw, what day would you have it? Because there's plenty of options, a lot of which are not going to get them views. I can confirm there have been meetings between WWE executives, primarily Nick Khan, and Warner Brothers Discovery executives. However, there are also plenty more meetings taking place, including continued meetings with representatives of, for example, Disney. There are talks of streaming services being involved in this and tying this in with the UK deal. Discovery Plus is currently hosting the UK deal for TNT Sports, for example, so they could tie that in very nicely. That means Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, including pay-per-views, but they do have to spend money for those because of the box office system. Now, these talks are advanced. They are at the point, at the moment, of a bid, but not an official bid as of yet. The paperwork has not gone through. Nothing has been made official. They are, at the moment, attempting to draw Fox back in. The WWE's prime focus is on getting network TV, not cable TV, network TV. They want to be on the biggest possible outlet that they can possibly find. And Fox, for the longest time, has been perfect. Absolutely perfect for their service. What I will say is that Warner Brothers Discovery are the backup option because Fox don't seem that invested. With this in mind, the WWE have landed on a very, very effective format, to regain interest. You're going to love this, you're going to love this. Reports stating that CM Punk is making a difference are 100% accurate. The WWE is intentionally putting CM Punk on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT to make a point that he is a very effective draw. What this is saying to WWE viewers and to potential bidders like Warner Brothers Discovery is that WWE is worth more with CM Punk than without. And this has convinced Fox to poke their nose back in and potentially make a bid. The WWE don't want Warner Brothers as a first option. Okay? As a first option, they want Fox and network television. The WWE might stall this a little longer to guarantee that they can't get network TV. But if Warner Brothers Discovery are there and willing, they may well dive into it. Spider-Boss says, I think a good match to start for Jade Cargill would be Jade versus Charlotte. Jade versus Nia Jax is what I personally think we'll see. Dylan says, Tom, does the rumours of Punk's plans after Seth that one of his opponents is Roman Reigns because Sports Illustrated have come out and said that's the plan going forward for Punk have any truth to it? Only in the way that everybody in WWE has a future, and after Seth could mean until the day he retires in about 10 years. Reckon in the next 10 years he might well encounter Roman. Michael says, does Mercedes have like a decision date kind of thing, or just whenever she's ready? That I'm not sure about. My expectation is that we'll hear and see Mercedes in the new year, in January, wherever she decides to go. Steve says, with Christmas looming, is next week's SmackDown getting taped tonight? Yes, it is. And Spider-Boss says, it got me interested that Mercedes asked to work with Bayley. I like it. Mercedes always asked to work with Bayley. They're always very disappointed if they're actually broken up, but WWE insists on continuing to do so. Raymond says, any updates concerning the tag title split? Nope. Joey said, did I miss the Warner Brothers news? Nope, just got over it. Sean says, since Dom lost the belt to Dragon Lee, do you see Finn and Damien losing the tag belts soon? I don't see any correlation in that. Aled suggests Wednesday Night Raw. Roger says a report from Fightful Select, Deonna Purrazzo, her contract is set to expire on January 1st. No deal of Impact has been reached. One of the reasons is because Purrazzo is looking to explore her options. As I've said, my expectation is that Deonna Purrazzo has already been approached by Triple H, that's just my opinion, and will be appearing in WWE relatively soon. Dylan suggests Thursday Night Raw. Spider-Boss says, I'm so used to Raw Monday night that I don't see Raw any other day that isn't Monday. Leon also thinks Wednesday Night Raw because it would be funny. Joey says, do you think Disney is still the front runner for Raw? Nope. Michael says, is Ring of Honor going to be part of the AEW deal? Not sure at this point. That is my next piece of news as regards the AEW TV deal. Bear with me one sec. Wiggly says, I can't imagine having it on any other day except for a Monday. Alex says, I like how people took what Cody said about MJF as he's going to WWE in January. Perry says, Raw should stay on Monday if it moves shows. Tuesday for Raw and Thursday for SmackDown. Your Mania schedule would be simpler. Wiggly says, I guess as close as possible to the end of a PLE weekend, so Tuesday, I guess. CM says, are you going to have more Sasha news in the coming weeks? There is no way for me to know that. Spider-Boss says, in your opinion, where do you see Mercedes signing, WWE or AEW? No comment, because I know what happens when I share my opinion on these things. Wiggly says, imagine if Monday Night Raw was no longer a thing, the Raw after WrestleMania would no longer be a thing. It absolutely would. Absolutely would. We currently have 94 people watching and only 57 likes. 3 more gets us to 60 and can keep this gravy train rolling. We are trying to get to a point where one day, one glorious day, I might well be able to actually go full time with this. One of the easiest ways that you can support this channel is simply by hitting that thumbs up. There is the like count, there is chat rate, there is new subscribers. Everything like that are how channels grow when it comes to YouTube. They're also, to be fair, the same engagement section, how channels grow on Twitch. But at the moment, as you'll know, YouTube is my main focus. We are currently in a pretty good spot when it comes to subscribers, 5,439. The dream is that maybe we finish the year on 5,500, and let's not forget, I set a very ambitious target at the beginning of this year to finish at 5,000. So let's just say I'm a happy boy. Will says, if Raw goes to Warner Brothers, will it still be 3 hours? That is a guess based on an assumption. Thank you, Michael. Resubscribing for a record 34th month. 34th month. I sometimes forget how long I've been doing this. Thank you very kindly, Michael, for your continued support and simply for your continued attendance. It's great seeing you, and I always knew, of course, a show like this with the word Sasha Banks WWE Return offer in it, you'd obviously be here, but I very much appreciate your support. Thank you. James says, is there any truth to the $34 million AEW loss? I don't doubt WrestleNomics, I'll say that first and foremost. I will also point out I've gone into a lot of detail on this very YouTube channel with an AEW financial analysis. I advise you to check that out. Literally just type in the search bar, Tom Colohue, AEW financial analysis, and you'll find that years ago I stated AEW is not profitable. They still aren't. At the time, a lot of people laughed at me. And yet, once again, we found ourselves years later getting a report confirmed. Spider-Boss says, I know comparisons aren't good, but I've seen Cora Jade No, we're not doing that. Wiggly says, if Warner Brothers Discovery get the rights in the US, will they relinquish their AEW rights? There is no correlation between those two things. Chris says, do you think AEW is on a downward trajectory? The ratings are certainly lower at the moment, but wrestling is cyclical. CM already answered that. One says, House of Wrestling thinks FX is better for AEW. Eric says, random question, but if you know, where do people go if they get arrested or abducted? What? That is a ridiculous question, Eric. That is a ridiculous question. Firstly, we're not going to make light of stuff like that. And secondly, you're asking me if I know everywhere people go whenever they get abducted? Think about what you're saying. Spider-Ball says, it was interesting to see the tension in the Judgment Day. Watch Rhea and Damian Priest arguing was fun. Crush, MJF has not signed an extension. Michael says, I don't know if Wednesday is even a good day for Raw. Maybe Tuesday. Sean says, what are your thoughts on Carmelo Hayes being selected to participate in the US title tournament? It will draw a lot of eyes. Crush, no idea. It's up to him. Parrish says, any front runners to host WrestleMania 40? I suggest R-Truth. R-Truth would be a good fit. I think we're going to see good talkers, and I think maybe Grayson Waller will be in the running for it. Michael says, is TNA basically out of the run-in for Mercedes? And they don't think so. I think so, but they don't think so. Michael says, Brandon Thurston is fantastic. He had a great video on AEW finances. He absolutely is. He is the most reliable journalist when it comes to wrestling content. Backwards says, hey Tom, how you doing? I think you'll get to 10,000 subs by 2025. That's the dream, mate. That's the dream. In the hot seat says, happy holidays, Tom. Looking forward to what is next for Sasha Banks. Bismo says, Tom, you're the only person I trust for wrestling news. Thanks for keeping it real. Thank you kindly for that. I do very much appreciate it. Crush says, is AEW's lack of profitability going to bite them in the ass? We'll find out. Perry says, I think Tom will get 10,000 subs right after he hits 9,999. Huge if true. Salvik says, wrestling purists also mentioned AEW has no interest in Julia Iver. Was that an exclusive from them? Because they have started doing those now. And Chris says, TNA and AEW battling to be second place is kind of funny for me. Next up, AEW at risk. And there's a lot that I need to go into here. So before I do, I'm going to take a sip of water. And in that time, we have 105 people watching, 64 likes. 6 more gets us to 70. So if you can hit that, I'd be very much appreciative. Meanwhile, I'm going to take a sip of my lemonade. What a ridiculous thing we saw reported over the last few days as regards AEW. House of Wrestling reported that there was a vibe that AEW would not be renewing their TV deal with Warner Bros. Discovery. Firstly, what is this vibe? How do you quantify it? Where did this vibe come from? And why are you reporting on a vibe? You're reporting on an opinion. What is happening? Anyway, AEW are, as I've reported previously, currently still exploring their options for a new TV deal. Nothing has been finalised, and Tony Khan has definitely had moments where he is beginning to panic. AEW, as has been reported by Brandon Thurston, as was reported by myself years ago, need a massive, lucrative increase in their TV rights deals in order to actually become profitable. The biggest problem with that, however, is that they absolutely have no grounds for it. Their ratings have not gone up. Their income has not gone up. And in fact, a number of more bankable stars, such as the aforementioned CM Punk, is not there. Proven draws are leaving the company. Now, there are some that have been able to, that will convince companies to stick with them. That being Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, and the like. But they are lower now when it comes to numbers than they were when they launched. Particularly, the deal was made to have a Saturday show with CM Punk at the helm. And then CM Punk left. The word betrayed has been going round backstage in AEW as regards to TV deals. And I simply cannot dispute it. What I will say is that AEW, as a company, as an entity, are not at risk. Tony Khan has not run out of money. But I've said this since day one. His money comes from Shad Khan. And if at any point Shad Khan actually looks at these numbers and sees how much they've lost, the big threat is not Tony Khan, it's Shad Khan saying, okay, we're done with that now. We've let you have your fun, we've let you have a play, it's not working. That is the risk to AEW. The risk from AEW, the phone call is coming from inside the house. There is no doubt in my mind that there will be options and there will be a TV deal that could potentially be lucrative and valuable. However, to be blunt on this one, AEW are more at risk of having the funding cut that is actively supporting them because they simply cannot afford to do what they're doing now. Now, there are options. And if they do lose this TV deal, even if they lose the backing of Shad Khan, there are methods by which they become profitable. The easiest method would be firing half of their roster. I said about a year ago that we were about to see a raft of releases quietly announced, primarily out of the public sphere. We saw that over the next few months. We've seen plenty of that. A lot of people saying they were never used properly by Tony Khan. It's hard to argue that in some cases. What I will say at this point is that Tony Khan has some convincing to do to a number of different people, and a big TV deal doesn't seem forthcoming at this point in time. Thank you, Salvik. I appreciate that. Sean says, with the reports of Seth and Becky contracts up in June of next year, I don't see them leaving WWE, but maybe going to limited dates. They've been looking for limited dates for a while, and I definitely think that is likely at this point in time. As regards the idea of leaving, there is a number of people whose contracts are up early next year. These contracts will be negotiated in due course, but there will be a drop in some of the money because, to put it bluntly, WWE are fully aware they're not going to get a better option elsewhere. Spider-Boss says, it certainly surprised me as a Mercedes money news. Whatever Mercedes decides will be fun. Michael says, you had me with the Mercedes impending return to WWE, so it made me think it was pretty much happening. There is a pretty strong offer on the table, but there is more to do before there's any signature coming. Crush says, was Adam Copeland losing his edge a part of why he's seemingly not drawing? I think the main reason he's not proven to be a draw is because his WWE run wasn't great. Perry says, I have a vibe for a peanut butter sandwich. I have a verbal agreement to acquire said sandwich. Miss T says, hi Tom, do you think WWE has a backup plan ready for Bianca if Charlotte isn't able to do Mania? They're working on it. They're working on it. It's not a case of click your fingers and it'll happen. They're working on it. Joey says, did that piss off Warner when TK fired Punk after they created Collision for him? As I mentioned, the word that went round backstage was betrayed. Jonathan says, money isn't everything. Tony's father can cut the money out of nowhere. He can. And Michael says, Chad Khan is worth 5 times more than Vince. Absolutely. And a lot of that has already been lost. Kush said, would it be wrong of me to blame Tony Khan for not making the Bucks men fences with Punk? Yes and no. It would be wrong in that Tony Khan cannot force anyone to do so, but it would be right in stating that it's his job to make it happen. Michael says AEW really does need to trim the roster. They are scared to do so because of the reaction that WWE gets when it does so. Joey says, is Bryan Danielson's influence backstage pissing off the talent? Not to my knowledge, no. And Backward says, do you know how the morale is backstage in AEW? Up and down, same as anywhere. I only speak to a few people there. Perry says, imagine if WWE buys AEW, if that ever became a real thought, it would be insane. I'm not convinced they would want it. There were times when they could have bought TNA, but they didn't. The dude says, I'm sure it doesn't help that Shad's NFL just got defrauded for $22 million by now former employee, losing money on multiple fronts. Yeah, but they'll get that back. Code says, I hope limited dates aren't Roman Reigns level of limited dates. So I've spoken about this for a while now. When it comes to the Roman Reigns level of limited dates, I don't see that being Becky and Seth, but that's the dream. Jonathan says, coincidentally, Sean Ross Sapp just reported, and I quote, the once working plan between AEW and Mercedes Money is no longer the working plan. Just now he reported this. So, firstly, I believe that's the first confirmation that there was a plan between AEW and Mercedes Money outside of, you guessed it, right here on the Tom Colohue channel. So thank you, Sean Ross Sapp, for confirming my report on that one. And also thank you for confirming my report that things have changed in the last few weeks. Once again, first reported here on Spoiler Warning. Question for all of you. Do you think my name's going to be mentioned as the guy who first reported it? JJ says, with Becky going to limited dates, to be clear, I've not reported she's going to. Just to be clear. Selvik says, are WWE trying to have another celebrity as a wrestler like KSI or Jake Paul? They are always talking to different celebrity influencers to try and bring them in. There are a number of people that they've already begun discussions with, most of which you'd never heard of. Some of you will definitely have heard of it, but you know. I mean, you haven't heard the news. Michael says, I always thought Trinity would go back to WWE before Mercedes. Me too, to be fair. Will says, when it comes to Mercedes Money, how close was she to going to AEW before she got hurt? Nothing was signed, but an agreement in principle was, well, agreed. Pardon me. Parrish says, is it plausible the main thing Sasha Banks Mercedes money wants is for WWE to bring back ice cream bars? Reckon not. Michael says TK didn't need to say anything like, we don't fire people during a pandemic for when the inevitable comes and he needs to cut people. To be fair, pandemic is now over, but he did really make it really, really clear what he wasn't planning on doing. He might need to do it regardless. Crush said they should just get rid of Ring of Honor and keep only certain people. That may be the plan. Koo says, do you think the push that Andrade is getting currently in AEW is to get him to re-sign? Personally, yes, I do. Chris says, good evening, Tom. Feel like it's been a while. It really hasn't, mate, but I appreciate it. How you doing? As regards my name being mentioned, Brad says, not by SRS. Crush says, is it funny now that Tony Khan boasted having certain talents locked into deals for 2027? I'm not going to laugh at this. I think it's a great thing having genuine, legitimate competition for the WWE, and I think it did push them to improve. It's also a great thing for wrestlers because they've simply made more money. I'm not going to laugh at any of this. Backwards says, your name should be mentioned. CM says, is Melo's match tonight considered a call-up if he wins since he'll be back for a next round or a one-off? Not necessarily, but I'd certainly be looking at it as that. Michael says, to be fair, things could be super tight-lipped with TK to the point where SRS doesn't know. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So a bit of respect wouldn't go unnoticed. But there is no respect there, clearly. Mick says, yes, you will be mentioned, but by me only. Appreciate you, Mick. I still get notifications every time you post a TikTok or a short about it. The hashtag Tom Colohue has had more than 140,000 views now and getting closer to even bigger. So happy boy. Thank you kindly. Bailey says, what other networks are in discussion for AEW's media rights? At this point, I don't have details on that. You should have, Eric, yes. Slovic says, is Axiom on Nathan Fraser getting called up to the main roster? I can't say conclusively at this point in time. Daniela says, I'll talk wrestling. May I ask what you think is happening with the IC title when Pierce invited Gable, Kofi and Ricochet into his office on Raw? Logically, triple threat match, number one contender next week, goes up against Gunter. Nice and simple. Perry says, Tom, I love your content, appreciate your help away, but I'm just happy to make you laugh and smile while you educate many with your work. I appreciate that, sir. 456 says, what up, Tom and chat? Thank you and welcome, 456. Spider-Boss says, after CM Punk returned to WWE, makes me think anything is possible now since WWE want Mercedes and Sasha Banks back. Sean says, do you think CM Punk will have a match before he competes in the Royal Rumble? Yes. Code says, the AEW Devil storyline has got boring as well. Tony Storm is the best thing going in AEW right now. Chris says, fair enough, but if AEW goes under, what happens to those long-term contracts? Once again, I do not expect in any way that the AEW will go under. One says, as long as AEW can get a TV deal, that would do wonders for TK. Yes, it would. Ed says, WWE needs competition. AEW and TNA have been the closest to viable competition to keep WWE going harder than ever. Absolutely fair. CM says, do you think the Rumble is a good time for Melo's call-up? Once again, a guess and an assumption. Wrestler fan says, will John Cena wrestle at WrestleMania 40? There have been no real suggestions as of yet. If I get anything, I'll let you know. Spider-Boss says, SRS is a diva for giving you credit. I will always give you credit for your news. Thank you, Spider-Boss. Leon says, Fightful reports Kenny Omega was ill throughout last week. Still did the match with Ethan Page and the promos and sought medical attention after where he was diagnosed with diverticulitis. Thank you for bringing that in and sourcing it, Leon. Eddie says, hi Tom, I got here now Sasha in Royal Rumble. Any update of Okada? For the Sasha Banks news, pop back to 5 minutes into the show. It's all there. As regards Okada, there is no update at this point in time. Daniela says, Kofi versus Gunter may cause tension in the New Day with Kofi and Woods. I'm hoping Ricochet gets the chance. Joey says, do you know if Bad Bunny has been pitched any matches for Mania? There have been discussions with Bad Bunny. I've not heard anything beyond that. Kenny says, hey Tom, do you know what direction they're going with Roxanne? I do. Forwards. Code says, do you see Punk versus Rollins Night 1 Mania main event? Gutted that Becky versus Rhea probably won't be if that happens. I've already mentioned that I do expect that, and I do expect that's what was promised to make CM Punk sign, though he would have signed anyway. Grish says Kenny Omega needs to be given proper time to rest up and heal from his injuries. CB says having diverticulitis sucks so much. Sean says, is KO legit injured? Yes, but he can wrestle through it. It's a hand injury. He can still wrestle. Crush, nothing on 2K24. Perry says, I can see 3 NXT superstars being tested during the Rumble, but one may be a mainstay while a few will be a draft call-up, i.e. JD Zoe from last year. Wrestler fan says, how many matches do you expect for each night for WrestleMania 40? 7 or 8. Jared said, is there a possibility AJ Lee could return in the Royal Rumble? Everything is on the table. Selvik says, given that New Japan partnered with 9 Japanese promotions to create an alliance, does this lower the chance of Okada going to WWE or AEW? Nope, there is no correlation whatsoever between that deal and Kazuchika Okada making a decision. Spider-Boss said, at this point I see Gunter vacating the IC title to go after the World Heavyweight title. I do not. Bailey says, why does Ring of Honor draw so poorly? Because nobody really watches it. Rob says, do you think Roman retains and possibly breaks Hulk Hogan's title reign? No, but stranger things have happened. Sam says Roman would have to hold the title until 2028 to surpass Sammartino. I think he'd have retired by then. Chris said, would NXT Japan ever happen? Nope, NXT Asia would, and is already in the plans. We've reached a new record of subscribers, 5,441. Thank you so much, all of you, for the continued support. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're also currently at 119 viewers and 71 likes. Please keep those thumbs up coming if you can. Our next piece of news, Cody Rhodes is certainly stoking a fire of the idea that MJF will be joining WWE. Now, Cody Rhodes wants MJF to join WWE. This was wishful thinking on his part, suggesting that MJF could join WWE and he would like to see MJF in WWE. Nobody has reported that MJF is going to join WWE. These are two very, very different things. A lot of people really get it confused, but to be very, very clear, nobody has reported that MJF is going to join WWE. Cody Rhodes would like to see it. That is all. Jonathan says, Braun Breaker's got to be up by the Rumble. Personally, I'd bring up Braun, Baron Corbin and Dijak, put them all on Raw as individual monster heels. Perry says, I'd love to see Gunter challenge a world title as IC champion, given his warrior opinion on the bump. Joey says, do you think Okada would have a hand in NXT Asia if he were to sign? Once again, that's a guess based on an assumption. If this happens and this happens, will this happen? Chris says Tony Khan will break the bank to keep MJF. He already did. Sean says, do you see new tag champions on Raw this Monday? No. Zane says, Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada opponents for TNA in 2024? TNA reported it. Pretty cool. Alex says, do you think Cody Rhodes would be an influence if MJF joins WWE? He's already actively doing so. Spider-Boss says, nope. 2 spots with Glass and the Laugh. The devil is Jack Perry. And in fact, that's my next piece of news. So let's get to that. I've been saying for a while now that in my opinion Jack Perry is going to be the devil. AEW certainly seem to be hinting pretty heavily that Jack Perry is the devil. And it's also been confirmed now, Jack Perry's suspension has been served. The investigation is over and AEW have said to him, come back to work. He hasn't been seen backstage in AEW, but hey, if you're wearing a mask, you're not going to be. What I can say with certainty is that a number of different people have already played the devil. Personally, I've got an eye on Jack Perry, but the teases also certainly seem to move them in a different direction. Sean says, do you know if there are any others Cody would like to have in WWE? Yes, most of them. Crush says, the WWE building up the tag team division to split the titles and separate titles. No, they're just building up the tag team division. One says, would Mercedes Money use TK to raise the offer to make Triple H match it? Just like Randy Orton did back in late 2019 when he was potentially a free agent. Yes, everybody does that. Edge did it as well, and of course Cody also. Tony Kaname Kuran says, good evening from America. Welcome, mate. Chris says, Jack Perry as a devil is so underwhelming. Disagree. Spider-Boss says, when there was some tension in the Judgment Day won back the tag titles. Now I see the Judgment Day retaining against the Creed brothers. Aled says, I want MJF in WWE, but now I'm starting to think he signed a new AEW deal. He did. Backward says, did Wardlow play the devil a few weeks back because it sure looked similar to him? I do not have direct names. Steve says, the devil not just a red herring to be Phoenix, rebranded as El Diablo. Wouldn't hate it. Would not hate it. And Crush just wants new tag titles. I get that from you, mate. I get that. Team Santos. So, as I originally posted earlier on the YouTube community page for this channel, there are reports from PWInsider that Santos Escobar may well be making his new recruits. PWInsider have reported that Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo may be backstage at SmackDown tonight. They're reporting that a number of people are backstage at SmackDown tonight, which includes AJ Styles. I think finally, on the, I believe, 4th attempt, they've got this one right. Can you say it was right when you've got it wrong 3 times? Genuine question. Would love to know your opinion on it. AJ Styles is expected back, according to PWInsider, but also we're going to see the return of Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo to team up with Santos Escobar against the LWO. Los Lotharios and Santos Escobar versus LWO will simply be a way to keep Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio separate as long as possible. They will essentially just mean that WrestleMania will be the actual Santos versus Rey match, but Santos Escobar has a lot of growth to do and a lot of build to take up before we get to that point. Santos Escobar ready for backup, which we should see tonight. As regards AJ Styles, yes, I'm expecting him. No, there are no plans for him to wrestle Roman Reigns anymore. Jonathan says, letting Edge walk might have been the smartest business move Triple H has done. Saving that budget. Wasn't Triple H. It was entirely Nick Khan. Sean says, I think Jack Perry as a devil is predictable. If they want a shock factor, make it someone no one expects. Okay, I completely get what you're saying, which is why it has to be Billy Gunn, right? There is a point in diminishing returns. East Chicago, new name, welcome. Says TK is making MJF stale. You can just tell he's going to WWE. Well, he's certainly not going anywhere just yet. He is under contract. Kush says he will replace Rich Holland and the Brawling Brutes. No one. CM says, which members of LWO would fight? Rey Mysterio and I don't honestly know their names, but the tag team. Alice says AJ Styles versus Randy Orton should be a match. Winner faces Roman at the Rumble, in my opinion. There are no plans for that. Randy Orton versus Roman is already guaranteed. Brad says if you get it wrong 3 times, you can't say you got it right. Well, Brad says so. Perry says Ray and Wild and Cruz versus Lotharios and Santos winner takes LWO name bucket. I suspect they already did. Tony says Garza and Carrillo teaming with Santos Escobar would be an ideal choice as a heel team on SmackDown. I hope Bobby Lashley, Montez and Angelo become babyfaces instead. Joey says, do you see them doing a big 6-man tag match at Mania, or will it be a singles with Santos and Ray? I see a 6-man tag coming sooner. I see Ray versus Santos singles at WrestleMania. Joey, it was planned, it wasn't necessarily booked in, and from what I can tell, there is a reason that AJ Styles has been absent. Okay? I'm not digging on this one, because what I've already found out, I don't want to repeat. There's a reason AJ Styles has been absent. So Vic says, if MJF has signed a new contract, how long do you think it would be? Again, that is a guess on an assumption, so I'm not going to answer it. Michael says, the Continental Classic has been fan-freaking-tastic. Steve says, if AEW wants to boost ratings, time to reveal the Z-Devil as Tony Khan. It was me, Punk. It was me all along, Punk. Sam says, would Carlito fill in for Ray until he comes back? Nope, he's injured, mate. More likely Dragon Lee would. The other Mike says, is Sheamus injured or on creative hiatus? Was injured, now on creative hiatus. Joey says, they're already starting to build towards it, to be clear. Joey says, I think they should have saved Randy versus Roman for a big PLE like Elimination Chamber. You think the Royal Rumble isn't a big PLE? Crush says, is Roman working Australia? Couldn't tell you at this point in time. Clyde, welcome, says, hope all is well with you, Tom, along with everyone in the chat. Let's hit the like button and get to 100 likes. Wow. You have big dreams there, Clyde. To be fair, we're not far off. We currently have 78 likes. 2 more gets us to 80. Just 2. Sean says, is it true that Sami Zayn is taking time off? Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. Again, Joey, I've just said I'm not going to say. Spider-Boss says, do you think we won't see Dominic back on NXT after he lost the North American title? Stranger things have happened. I do think we'll see some more Judgment Day. Leon says, to be honest, this has been AJ's worst year in WWE. Hasn't done much of anything this year. Tony says, if Warner Brothers Discovery accept Nick Khan's offer for Monday Night Raw, that is not even slightly how this one works. Nick Khan doesn't make the offer. That's not how that works. Carmelina says, do you think Roman is going to be mad at Jimmy? Yeah, he always is. Chris said, could you see AJ Styles leaving WWE? Absolutely. He won't wrestle and live forever. Alice says, I don't know what AJ does now because there was a bloodline story already there for him. Could well still be. There is still time for him to get involved with the bloodline, but I think it might be a bit more Solo Sikoa than Roman Reigns. Personally. That's what I'm expecting. One thing I do want to mention at this point in time. Twice now over the last few days, I basically posted a report on the community page. What I tried to do today is write enough that it actually goes to a point where you have to click read more. So I wrote basically a clickbait title in which if you click more, you'll learn very quickly. So it's still free news, it's still very openly shared, but I also don't immediately spoil it for everyone. That's my hope. Now, for everyone who's seen it, and I know it's actually quite a few of you because I've had a lot of responses, thank you for that. Did you get the read more tag, or did you get it spoiled who they actually were? Because I was tempted to make it a picture or something like that. I don't want to just be throwing news and names out there, you know? Also, more importantly, is that something you want? Do you want me to use the community page in that manner? Because I'm enjoying it. It is actually driving traffic. And it's also an area that I think is criminally underused on YouTube. I'm trying to come up with more ideas of how to grow the channel. The community page might be the one. Might be the one. So please, if you have feedback, let me know. Sean says, when do you think the Bayley face turn happens? When she is ready. And Bayley says, how soon before we hear about WWE Hall of Fame selections? A little while. It'll be next month. Steve says, is that NXT debutante set for tonight's SmackDown? There's a couple. Chris says, AJ Styles versus Solo Sikoa for WrestleMania. I'm going with Randy personally. Chris suggests the devil is James Ellsworth. Thank you, Crush. Appreciate that. Alan says, will CM Punk have a televised match before the Rumble? Maybe. Perry says, love to see AJ work backstage when he's done in ring. I believe he has stated in interviews he'd like to do the same. Imagine him and Root and Borash running a show. He's already actively doing so and providing a lot of feedback. Joey says, weird, the match got changed. Thought AJ made amends with Paul Heyman. He did. Once again, you can't change something that isn't already booked. There was creative plans being put together. The match wasn't booked. Alec got the read more. Backswood says, a great idea. I got the read more. Fantastic. Perfect. Chris says, is CM Punk's return mostly a positive one so far? So far, yes. This time in his AEW career, it was also really positive. One says, every time I hear a report, I always come looking for you for confirmation. Appreciate that. And Joey says, PWInsider reported Gable Steveson is backstage at SmackDown tonight. What do you think he's there for? To be told, why aren't you more available? Spiderboss says, I like the shorts videos on TikTok and the WTF video on YouTube. Thank you kindly for that. I'm trying to come up with more ideas for TikTok, but I think it's mostly just like comedy crap now. I have to try and come up with something for shorts and TikTok that lasts more than 5 seconds, basically. Spiderboss says, maybe we could see a 6-man tag team match. Bloodline versus Randy and LA Knight and AJ Styles. Certainly possible. That is a team that they're building. Chris says, I use the community page to promote our shows on Turnbuckle Talk. We've seen an uptick in our viewership there. OLE, welcome. Ole says, happy Friday, Tom. Welcome. Zane says, was Randy Orton versus Edge the greatest wrestling match ever? Yes, because they told us so. And Chris says, Gable Steveson and his brother should have been put together as a tag team, in my opinion. There's still time. There's still time. Last thing I want to mention, in an interview with Chris Van Vliet, for those who don't know, Vliet, not Vliet, formerly known as Lacey Evans, confirmed that she wasn't really in love with wrestling. And to be fair, I can't blame her. She did very well in her brief time in NXT, very well in her first year. After that, she fell off hard. I do think they were hoping for different things, and the constant rebooking and rebranding of her character severely shot them in the foot. But I don't think we can really punish someone now for not loving something which was not really what they were going for. I can't imagine a world in which she felt fulfilled by the little that she got in her time in WWE. No update on Andrade. I've already reported everything I can on that one. Eddie? Hey, Nas, how you doing? Joey says, I think they hyped up Gable too much. He was never going to be the next Kurt Angle or Brock Lesnar, but they did think they would. They did think they would. We have 107 people watching, 84 likes, which is a fantastic number. I don't think we're getting another 16, unfortunately, but we have had 429 views already. An average view duration of 13 minutes and 42 seconds, which is absolutely incredible. And so far, nobody has told me that they've seen an ad, which hopefully means that ads are turned on. But other than, did you guys get ads when you first came in? Just random question, I know, but I am still trying to make a living from this. So I worry that if ads haven't run at all during the show, there haven't been any. Can anyone confirm? Brilliant. Okay. Steve says, who becomes the first superstar AEW or WWE to cross the line and join TNA? Plenty more of them. We'll see how it goes. Selvig says, Damon Kemp, I feel, is better than Gable Steveson. He's had more training. Crutch got the ad. Wang got the ad, but only one. Bobby says, yes, Bailey saw 2 full ads. Cool, thank you. Chris says, I got ads over on Twitch. I always forget that Twitch does... You have no control over Twitch. It just runs ads for you. Ed has YouTube Premium. No ads ever. To be fair, when you have YouTube Premium, I still get a little bit of income equatory to watching an ad whenever you watch a show, so I appreciate that. CM says I saw one ad about 10 minutes ago, but that's all. Good. Great to know this, because I'm not seeing, like, 10 minutes ago we didn't see a big dip in viewership, so it means only a few people saw it, which is good. Allied got 2 ads. Clyde got an ad when it first came on. Chris says he's surprised WWE didn't bring back Mustafa Ali. No. And Perry says, no ads for me. Perry, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also have YouTube Premium. Spiderbot says, I think after a feud of the role models, all went downhill for Lacey Evans in WWE. She got big showed. She got big showed and she got big timed. We have passed the hour. We have covered plenty. The headlines today: Mercedes money, WWE return offer, Warner Brothers in for WWE, AEW at risk because of a vibe, CM Punk spending time in NXT, MJF in WWE, wishful thinking, Team Santos potentially debuting this week on SmackDown, Jack Perry as the Devil, AJ Styles definitely back, definitely this time, definitely Lacey Evans didn't love the WWE. Yep, absolutely, Parrish, thank you for reminding me. As regards Charlotte Flair, the assessment wasn't great. So they're keeping this one very tight-lipped. I don't have much news, but it does look like she'll be out for a little while on this one. Only one source on that one, so I can't sit here and say this is a report. At this point, it's just an opinion based on the one source that I've got. But it sounds like she might be out for a little while. WrestleMania is at risk for Charlotte Flair at this point in time. Thank you very much, Miguel, for subscribing on the YouTube side. We continue to grow in subscribers, and I am very thankful and very grateful to all of you for doing so. 5,445 subscribers now, an increase of 8 over the course of the show. Thank you everyone who's watched, everyone who's subscribed, everyone who's watched an ad, everyone who's hit a thumbs up, everyone who's left a comment, and just all of you who continue to support. We will be live in 2 hours for our SmackDown watch party. I hope to see as many of you then as we possibly can. Until then, as always, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.